Well, Ysanne, thank you so much for being here with me. I am so excited to have you here. You and I already had amazing conversations before, and more about that a bit later on. However, before we get started, why don't I hand over to you and you just introduce yourself to the audience?
Oh, thank you, Henriette. So I'm Ysanne Lewis. I live in Guildford, near London. I've been living here for about, since 93. And before that, I lived in the West Country, where I took up my profession or went self-employed. Had a few years in Southern California. I was quite pleased to come back to England, I have to be honest. Nice place to visit. Living can be an interesting experience there. Anyway, so I was always wanting to, as a child, as a teenager, I wanted to do two things. Well, there's a few things I wanted, and I think I have achieved them. I wanted to be a published author, which I have, quite late in life. I wanted to be a jazz singer and get paid, and I was for a short while. I wanted to have a purpose. That was the biggie. At 14, I made a great commitment to life, standing in the middle of nowhere, and said, I want a purpose. And I didn't find it until I was 27, which is quite young, but it felt quite a long time to wait for that. And I think you'll find that it can come in a different way to what we imagined, certainly the label of it. I remember a very wise woman on a course I was on way back when I was 23 saying, just be patient. It may come in a different way to what you think. And I thought, because I had no idea what it would be. I know I wanted to help people. And I always had a great interest in maps. That's why I don't particularly get that much into sat-navs, GPS. They can go wrong as well. What would we do without them? We'd have to use a map. So I loved exploring the countryside. I climbed and obviously walked, and I was an adventurer. And also I loved the tapestry above us, what I called the upside down carpet of the sky.
Yeah.
I learned a little bit about astronomy, and above all, I loved the stories of the stars, the patterns, why our ancestors saw stories and patterns and pictures in them. It'd be wonderful if children now had that knowledge as well, more and more. So as above, so below. That's a very old saying from philosophy. And in my 20s, I did many jobs. I trained as an actress, and which gave me confidence, I think. So I was quite shy as a youngster to be able to do public speaking later on, particularly without a script. And I did a lot of voluntary work. And then one day somebody said to me, well, you know your sun sign when you're born, November the 3rd, I'm a Scorpio. Do you know your moon sign? Because the moon changes every 2.5 days of the month by sign. I said, no. And do you know your rising sign, the time you're born, that sign coming up over the horizon, what you look like, how you come over to people? No. Will you tell me? And they said, no. They said, you're going to have to learn it. And there were no computers in 1977 or something in that way, and certainly no astrology programs. And I was a dunce at maths, Henriette, at school. But where there's a will, there's a way. And I struggled, and I learned, did logarithms, maths, and did a course. And then I realized I just wanted to work for myself. I hated the pettiness of employment. And I'd been in America at the time traveling, and I thought, I came back to a small office. I was a proofreader training to be a journalist on a newspaper in Bath. I thought, no. 2 weeks' notice in 1979, I left. And in those days, it was quite easy to get another job. And I thought, I'm not going to starve. I can always shift into something. And I went self-employed in the beginning of March 79. And it sounds a little bit tacky or woo-woo, but I think it shows me, don't know whether that makes sense to you, but I think it shows me because quite quickly I was getting the clients, I was doing handwritten charts, all the logarithms, maths. Later on, I went on to cassettes, CDs, and so forth. Everything moves and changes and develops. And I just loved working with people. It gave me an opportunity to go to many countries in the world and to get on the public speaking circuit. And I had an offer to write a book, which I did.
Amazing.
So 2 years on, ages me, doesn't it? 42 years on, I'll be 70 in November. I feel it's my best friend. And somebody said not very long ago in a talk I was on attending that you've got to feel passionate about what you do and renew it from time to time to make it interesting for yourself.
Yeah.
No matter the subject. Otherwise, what's the point? And it's not just about earning money. In fact, that wasn't one of my goals when I was a teenager. Money was the least of it. And I've done all right. So it was always about value and wanting to make a difference. So does that cover it a little bit?
It does. No, I love your story. And it's not the first time I hear it because I heard your story before. But I think what just stands out for me is, number one is your expertise as an astrologer, but also the kind of things that you've gone through, the kind of adventures that you've been on, because you say you're an adventurer. You love going on adventures and doing different things. But in a nutshell, it kind of develops you as well as to who you are, and it kind of steers you in a direction. And I always believe 100% that everything happens for a reason. There was a reason why you met this lady who said that, do you know your rising moon signs? Do you know all of these things? And you go like, no. She's like, you've got to go and study it. You've got to go and figure this out. And I think that took you on a path where you were just like, oh my gosh, this is it. You were always somebody who was interested in the stars and all the stories and the myths behind it. But that kind of just led you to what you're doing today as an astrologer as well. But I don't just want to talk about astrology. I want to talk about so much more than that. And a lot of people would go and say, okay, this is crazy woo-woo stuff. And, believe what you want. But I do believe that everything in life, in the world, in the universe is energy. And it's not even a belief, it's a fact. It's a scientific fact. But there's so much more to that. And you and I already had a lot of conversations about it. But talk to me a little bit about how does your role come into play with astrology and what you do with your clients?
Right. How do I work with my clients? I get them from all walks of life, Henriette, all walks, all ages. I tend not to, unless they're very unusual, very aware, very mature. I've two examples of that in my career. I don't do readings in person with youngsters under 17. There was one young lady, her mother was sat with her when it was being done at 14. She was very determined on a particular pathway, and she continued having updates of her chart because you can progress it to the current time, right through her time leaving school, going to Oxford University, and we still are, which is lovely. But that's more unusual. I work with individuals, they at a crisis point, they're just curious, and curiosity is a thing that runs me anyway. And I work with families, relationships. Nothing is cast in stone. I think it was Henry Ford, the car manufacturer person, said, if you want to predict the future, create it. Mm-hmm. You'd like that one, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Done that. And I work with businesses, particularly small ones, where they want to have a timing for startups, for a webinar, for rebranding, signing a contract. And that's very left brain stuff, because there is a left brain side to astrology, all the mathematics, the timing, and there's a right brain side where you synthesize all that information from a person's moment of birth. It's about 2,500 variables. And if you took them all separately, it'd be a caricature. And my job is to synthesize it all together to make a cohesive picture, and in everyday words, talk to the client and have a discussion with them. So my right hemisphere brain is very honed as well. So I find a chart can guide me. My intuition comes into play as well, which I think it does in all our work. Mm-hmm. We do. And mainly I work by recommendation, referral. People do Google and find me. Either it fits with them well or it doesn't. I think longevity does play a part, Henriette.
Yeah. Because how long have you been doing this?
42 years and a bit.
42 years. I mean, it is just extraordinary to hear that. The first time you and I met and you said to me, you've been doing this for 42 years, I was like, oh my goodness. I've never come across anybody who's been an astrologer and worked on this kind of basis for 42 years. So for me, that was just evident, like, we need to have a chat, because the curiosity got the best of me. Like you say, I was very curious. What is my timing like? How does astrology play a role in my life, in my business world?
Yes.
So that curiosity got me going, and I thought, I just want to know what you have to say. And then you asked me all these questions, and I was like, fine, I'll give you all the answers. And the next thing you said, okay, I've got a chart for you. And I was like, a chart? Hold on a minute. This is new. You got a chart. But that is where the curiosity just went crazy. And I was like, well, what does it say? I won't say it's fortune reading, and because that's not the key. It's actual astrology playing a role in your life.
Yeah.
And that was the thing that really intrigued me, because I do believe in energy and I do believe in the universal laws.
Absolutely.
And with all of that, it just made sense. So yeah, I'm fascinated by it.
Amazing. Because I think we are beings of cycles whilst we're in bodies. I mean, I believe in a soul, it comes from elsewhere. It's a big country, but our bodies are from nature. And it's very important that we can cooperate with our rhythms inside with nature, with the heavens, because we're all one big cell, and the word universe, uni, means one. But physicists are now saying that the cosmos could be seen like a big neural network, a plasmic neural network.
Yes.
And it's more of a mind. And I believe a physicist, even decades ago now, I forget his name, James Jeans, I think. James Jean. He said it seems more and more that the universe is like a great mind rather than a machine. And I think the astronauts have been around the Earth and back from the moon, they've said the same. They have a very different perspective. And we are all interconnected. And I believe we have these inner timekeepers, natural diarists, which live within us. And yes, we have to fill up our outer diaries, but somehow by listening to these inner timekeepers, to know when the troughs and peaks are, we don't always need an astrologer to show us that. We can actually sense them. Yeah. And to leave sometimes spaces in our diaries, because it will get filled up, but wisdom can come into play there as well. So we are all interconnected. And yes, you're right, it's not fortune telling at all. To predict the future, as Henry Ford said, you've got to create it. Exactly. So the more we heal our wounds, the more we overcome some of our habits, the more we can live our potential. And that's how I work with clients, to indicate turning points. What do you want to do with them? And usually my clients say afterwards, well, it endorses a lot of what they thought, which isn't that boring. It isn't really, because it's good to have that endorsement. And can push them a little bit to make those changes. It's not my place to say what they should do, but all that information lives within you. And those cycles. It's a very beautiful experience.
Yeah. And one of the things that fascinates me is we all have intuition, like you said, but there's a lot of us that don't tap into that a lot. The way I see it is because of the external factors. I mean, there's so much happening out there, and with technology and us being interconnected through internet, the media, we're getting bombarded with so much external factors, so many external energies coming into our fields, that we kind of forgot how to tap into that sixth sense almost. And when your sixth sense is telling you, go this way, not this way, you'll go, no, I think I'm going to go this way. And obviously that's the wrong way, because we've kind of adapted to listen to other things rather than our sixth sense. And I find this is what was so important when you and I had an amazing conversation about this. Everything that we've discussed is sixth sense based, because it was the conversation we had, my sixth sense telling me, this is what I need to do. This is what I need to do. And you just reaffirmed it. And I think sometimes that is the thing that we need to hear, because we hear ourselves talking and we say, yeah, my sixth sense is telling me this, but what if it's wrong? And then if somebody just reaffirms that for you, go, okay, well, that's it. Decision made. I'm going to do that.
Perfectly put.
But that's just how we work as human beings. We've got a sixth sense, but we don't always listen to it unless somebody reaffirms to you what the sixth sense said.
And also, I want, I like people. I want people to be happy. But at the same time, I don't mind what they do. So I haven't got an agenda on it.
Yeah.
So all that complexity in a chart. And also, although some people are living the dream or living their potential, a lot have made other choices in life due to conditioning, fears, education. Yeah. It's almost like actors in a play, and you've got some actors who have stage fright one day, they don't go on. So for the play to continue, another actor has to play that part, which is quite interesting. And this time period we've all been living through, the last year or so, has been one of maybe having to bring unlived parts of us onto stage. And you're right, doubt is the biggest dissuader, and we are absolutely bombarded by other energies outside of us. And it's a real test. And I think knowing what the planetary picture was the last year or so, of being able to get to know, make friends with our inner authority, our authenticity, and both those words stem from the word author. So it's almost like we're running scripts in our mind the whole time. What script is it? It's like on a phone, videos are playing in the background unless we delete them. It's using up gigabytes.
Yes.
So it's like, what script at this time? And I think when we have authenticity, which isn't easy, to be true to ourselves, that's when we get real intimacy and clarity. The outer and the inner come together. And we all know when we meet people like that.
Yes.
And sometimes it's just about making things simpler, knowing what we don't want, even if not everyone's going to like us, and what we do want. And nature, all the time, the well empties and has to fill up. We've got the dark moon phase and new moon. We've got all that there as a wonderful stage show, a mirror of how we can try and do that with ourselves.
Yeah. And I do find, the thing that I'm focused on is very much the simplicity of things. As a strategic business coach, people always come to me overwhelmed with so much going on. I'm like, just simplify it. Why do you keep complicating things for yourself? And I think this is very much the same principle. It's about life is simple. Don't overcomplicate it. Listen to your sixth sense. Listen to what it is that is driving you. Follow that sixth sense. And just the energies and what's happening out there in the world. I've had so many people, unfortunately, with what happened, with COVID. People are saying, oh my gosh, it was dire. I've had this horrible experience. I'm still going through it. But what I find instantly with those people is the mindset behind it. Then I meet people who goes like, it didn't affect me. I just thought I'm going to go through this. I'm going to come out of the other side. And those people have progressed. They've actually done better in business and in life throughout this COVID season. Why do I say season? This COVID, hopefully it's just a season that's going to pass and never come back. But that's the thing, because their mindset was different. They decided that they're not going to let the external things implicate in what they feel and what they think is right for them.
And I think it's like we worked with it rather than against it, went with the tide. And it's not quite the same as being a victim. I'm always very keen to, because I think victims can be quite manipulative at times. Not all, of course, as genuine victims, but, and I think sometimes we're brought up to be suspicious if things are too simple.
Yes.
I was.
Oh, yes.
To some degree, anyway, yeah. And we were educated. I was being educated in the 50s, 60s, and that was very much the point,
Yeah, because it comes back down to that. If something is too good to be true, it is. So that mindset, if something is too simple, then, why would you get something so easily if it's so simple, as an example? So I always say it is so easy to attract clients. It is simple. And people go like, why is it so simple? Because if I want something badly enough, it's going to be complicated or difficult to get it. It's like, it's not. It's because you are telling yourself that story.
And we all know that when we're not that attached to something, or perhaps you've lost interest in someone or a lover or whoever, they want to come back, or the situation gets more easy because we're not attached to it.
Yes.
It's very difficult because, of course, we need our passion, we need our wanting and our desire as part of the human condition. But there is that, I think, capacity to step back at times.
It's forcing. If you want something badly, don't force it. Step back and let it happen organically. Let it come to you organically and naturally. And that's like detaching yourself from it. And that's a hard thing for a lot of people. They want something, they're more attached to it.
There really is. And we are living in very interesting times, obviously. I think humanity can't handle uncertainty very well. I gave a talk the other day, a live talk for the first time in 18 months. Wow, that was something, instead of doing it over Zoom. And I did ask if anyone in the 30 audience liked uncertainty. And there were 3 people who did. Uncertainty. It's like taking risks, being adventurous, being in the moment, which, the whole thing about mindfulness, mind with that.
Yeah. I think, when it comes to uncertainty as well, it's very much a gray area, but it's an area people are scared of. Same as change. People are very scared of change because it completely changes their routines, changes their habits. Where for you and me as the adventurer, we like, bring it on.
Yeah, and of course, there's still moments when we feel, a bit lost or it's a bit strange. And when we're restricted, this comes down to like inner authority. It's the same thing with inner freedom. You get people running around saying, oh, I need space, and I'm being cramped by things, and they want freedom, and they want to keep moving on. But people with real inner freedom, and I think Nelson Mandela was a case in point, I'm sure there are others, where they could feel that inner freedom. And when somebody's got inner authority, I think I know at least 3 people I can think of offhand who've got that gentle but firm inner authority, and there's nothing else you can do but respect them.
Yeah.
People with authority who either kowtow to it, rebel against it, or bluster with it, they haven't got a strong sense of inner authority. And why am I mentioning that? Well, because I think there's planetary signatures over the last year or so. Because astrology is a language, it means language of the stars, astrologos, which indicated at this time period, when the slower moving outer planets, we call them, were in certain positions to one another, lined up, that issues to do with management, corridors of power, authority, were going to come on stage. And all we can really do, rather than feel out of control, is to find those things within ourselves. Biggest learning, I think, curve this year and last year. Don't know what you feel about that, Henriette, but it's a very important signature of our times.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. And I love what you're saying it, because I didn't know that astrology means the story of the stars, or the language of the stars. So I didn't know that. But like you say, there's so many stories going on above our heads that we don't even know about. And that's what astrology is. But if you follow the timelines of everything, of how things move out there, oh my gosh, it's fascinating. I can't even start talking about it because my head just goes boom.
And that's why I've done it for so long, and I find it endlessly fascinating. I mean, the word eclipse, and we've had 2 in the last nearly a month now, 26th of May and 10th of June. The word eclipse means to leave, and you often notice that people leave, leaders, and people pass on, and we look at situations in our life where we're being eclipsed by something or someone. We choose to leave, or they choose to leave us, which may be timely as well. So that's why eclipses have a bit of a bad press, but they can be good, well, if you like. So everything does move, and we move. And if we can feel connected with the solar system, with our inner selves, with nature, we can never feel alone. So, but again, that's a tall order for a lot of people. I'm not saying I've got that one sorted, but I have to remind myself.
Well, we're part of everything and everyone, we're part of the universe. Like you said, uni means one. We're all part, and we're sharing the same energy.
We really are. Yes. Yeah.
We are all connected, whether we like it or not.
We've had a real test about not having human touch, about social distancing, totally alien to how we should be, and coped with it, some better than others. I don't think I can go on for too long like that, because it's very unhealthy. You say, well, COVID's unhealthy, but so is this. So it's an interesting place, I think, now in the summer of 2021, where we are with how we want to relate. But I do feel, I don't know whether you found this, that more kindness has come up.
Oh, yes.
Time for people.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why I say, because, with whatever's happening out there, unfortunately, the media is only focusing on the negatives, but there's so much more positivity that has come out of it. Kindness, for one, support, people helping each other. Oh my goodness, there's just so many good things that have come from this. And that's actually where the focus should be, to be honest with you. And I promise you, if the media were to swing it around and put the focus on the good things that have come from this, COVID would have already disappeared.
Oh, I agree with you completely. I mean, it is bad, the fear mongering. I know so many people now who don't listen to the news. And I still have my local radio station, Surrey and Sussex. I'm still a fan of it. But again, you're getting the news on the hour, and I haven't been frightened by it, but you can see how people are.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help. But don't you think generally, even before this, that news was always these not necessarily scaremongering, but the scandals, the dramatic stuff. And who wants to hear, well, we do want to hear good news.
Yeah, no, we do.
The more dramatic. and I do feel also in this time period that, as I said earlier, unlived parts of us have come on, because maybe we've been furloughed, we've even lost our job, we've been having to work from home. How does that feel? Partnerships have been made or broken by this, that we've had to use new parts of us, personality traits and talent, in the form of, maybe I'll retrain, I have time to learn something, not just baking or learning French or something. Well, that's good too, but really retraining. And young people who I've talked with and done readings for at university, they're thinking, or going to university, is that what I want to do? What sort of lifestyle, career do I want? Yeah.
No, it's good, because it just gives you food for thought. It just makes you think, where do I really want to go? And that sixth sense, you just reaffirming it. And then people go, okay, this is where I want to go. And what you're doing evidently is creating your own future.
Wow. And that's the inner authority as well, which I tell youngsters have. It's not just you've got to reach a great age to have that. It's interesting astrologically, because the planet Saturn, which used to be the boundary of our solar system before we knew there were bodies beyond that, represented always to the ancient Romans, Greeks, Babylonians as the end bringer or boundaries and father time. So we get the Greek word is chronos, chronic, chronological. Saturn, the Roman name. So we talk about people being saturnine, a bit dour. So anyway, it definitely feels as though at the age of 29, Saturn comes back to where it was when we're born. And again, when we're 58. The next one is what, 87, something like that. And it's an opportunity. People do find they want to shed layers, to prune. It's all about pruning of conditioning. And many people change their lives at those points. It's like a part of them is being born as well, because there's space for it to come in.
Yes. That's really interesting. Gosh, I didn't know that. I want to ask you about your book, because obviously you're an established author. Talk to us a little bit about your book, and what is the title of the book?
Can I show you it?
Yes, of course, by all means.
Let me know if you can see it okay.
The Time Catcher. Oh, brilliant. What a fantastic title.
Yes, how to time your actions to turn challenges into opportunities. I was working as a radio host for Radio Works World, which went all over the planet. It was an internet radio, and I was giving talks on timing. And then the lady who ran it, Marina Nani, she said, well, we've got a publishing company. We'd like you to write a book based on those talks. And so I did. And I loved it. It was like I suppose it was like gestating a baby. And I couldn't start writing till about 5 PM. I'm a late night person. Mornings, forget it. And we had, we were doing talks in London as well, at different places, Westgards Hotel, the Crown Plaza, Battersea, places like that. It was lovely, met fascinating people and giving talks. And then she said, well, there will be awards for certain of the authors, and I would like you to have one. But if you can show your book that it's finished. And I said, well, I've got 3 weeks. Boom, 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 boom. The funny thing about it is that when I got there, most of the others actually just held up the cover that it'd been done, not the inside, which hadn't really been written or only half written. And I took her at her word and wrote the whole thing.
Oh my goodness. That is incredible.
Sometimes. So I did. And it really is about, I didn't want to write a book on star signs, for the everyday person.
Yeah.
Goodman's Sun Signs was an amazing book back in the 70s, really good. I didn't want to write a book for astrologers. What could I write about? So I just thought about timing, being the timing advisor. And I talked about timing, rhythm, cycles in our bodies, in nature, in the heavens, stories. And it all came together. So it's not a big book, but it sold well and people really liked it. People said it made them feel happy. So I thought, okay. And I must say, Henriette, when I finished, it felt like some people feel after giving birth, that, deflation and kind of slight depression about, oh, it's finished.
Yeah.
So have you written a book?
No, not yet, but there's one coming. Slowly but surely it's coming on.
That. But I was so happy. I had all this paper around me and notes, and it's all over the kitchen floor. I've got an open plan kitchen to the living room, and there was these screwed up pieces of paper everywhere. And I let the whole place go to pot. And normally with quite a lot of planets in Virgo in my chart, I like things quite neat and tidy. Oh, didn't matter. So I loved it. I loved the experience.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to write. And I did. I wrote novels as a teenager. One nearly got published, actually. And I still got them, 90,000 words. And I've done loads of article writing. It is quite isolating to write. It's not for everybody.
Especially if you've got to do it in such a short amount of time.
I did actually re-edit the whole thing as well. I mean, but yeah, so
that's amazing.
My baby, it's my baby, and it is good on a, if you like, a CV, if you want to call it that, and that you've got a book.
Yeah.
So,
no, that's incredible. But the good thing is your book is available as well for sale. Is that right?
It is, yeah. Basically, if one went to my website, email me, then it's on Amazon. But I think it's actually way more affordable, because they're telling me they've got used copies there. I thought, really? Because I've got the copies. But that's Amazon for you. But I charge £10. Publishers wanted me to charge more, but as an idea, or people like that. But I just thought 10 was a nice figure, a round figure, not £9.99. It just felt right to put a 10 in one number, which means beginning.
Yes.
So I'm really quite into numerology as well. So yes, what you can do is dip into it, any page, and you get information, and it is for the lay person. So either they think, oh, I'd forgotten that, I knew that, or they can Google something or more and then find out, lead on from what I've been saying.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for talking about your book, because I think there are people out here who's going to go, ooh, the timing, that's very good. I want to know a little bit more about that. So for those of you listening, if you want to get a copy, I'll make sure that the details are in the show notes. And then you can also email Ysanne and ask her for how you can obviously purchase a copy from her. So we'll put all her details in the show notes, so you can go to her website, you can stalk her on social if you want to, but just get in contact and just see what it is that she's doing, because she's always got the most amazing things going on. And every time we've just spoken, we've just had such amazing conversations. So by all means, just get in contact with Ysanne and just have a chat, even if you want to, because you'll just get as curious as I was. And honestly, once you start talking to Ysanne, you wouldn't want it to stop, because she's got so much knowledge that she can share with you. My goodness, Ysanne, I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. This was a completely different podcast episode that I would normally do, but I just love it, because I just find we're just touching up on things that goes a lot deeper. It's not just the surface stuff. We talk about things that are a lot deeper here. Indeed. So thank you so much for coming on and just sharing that with everybody here.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Good. Well, we're going to be in touch very soon again, you and me. But for those of you listening, don't delay. Go down to the show notes, get in touch with Ysanne, and go and get your copy of her book. All of the best, Ysanne, and we'll speak soon.
Thank you, Henriette. Look forward to that.
Bye.
Bye.